더 좋아했어요. 근데 나
What if the people from your past and your present all wanted the same thing? You. Workplace romance is a genre that has been done 1,000 of times, and Korean BL has its own well-worn version of it. The soft slow burn, the pinning, the almost moments, and honestly there's nothing wrong with that. But every once in a while, something comes along that decides to do it a little differently. Something that is less will they, won't they, and more who exactly is he and what does he actually want from me? Secret Relationships is that kind of drama. Now, before we get into it, Korean is not my native language, and I'll try to do my very best to pronounce the names right. I'm really sorry in advance for any name bungling. Okay, so if you're not that deep into the Korean BL scene, but somehow ended up here anyway, there's actually a decent chance you might have come across a clip on TikTok or Instagram that was making the rounds a little under a year ago, I think. A judge on the K-pop survival show Boys to Planet recognized one of the contestants from a BL drama, and she did absolutely nothing to hide it. That contestant was Kim Junseo, who went on to debut as a member of the group Alpha Drive 1, and the drama he was recognized from? It's this one. So you might already know more than you think. Also, since I will be going into detail from here on and giving the show my honest review, consider this your spoiler warning. Let's dive in. Secret Relationships came out in early 2025, and it looks a little different than what KBL had given us before. The story follows Chung Da-hoon, a hardworking salaryman with a difficult past, caught between three very different men. Chu Song-yeon, the colleague who has been on his nerves since day one, and yet turns out to be the steadiest presence in his life. Shin Jae-min, his former tutor and the person Taehoon's heart is already set on when we are first introduced to the story, and Kim Soo-yeon, a company heir whose history with Taehoon runs deeper than it first appears. So this one is not offering us a love triangle, but I guess what you can call a love square. It is also a little darker, and if you're someone who likes your romance with a little psychological edge and a plot twist waiting at the end of every episode, this one was made for you. The way this drama opens already tells you what kind of show it is going to be, and that opening scene alone had me on the edge of my seat. It doesn't show much and it tells even less, but somehow I was immediately captivated. In the following, we are introduced to the center of the drama, Taehoon, as someone carrying more than he lets on. He obviously has feelings for Jaemin, his former tutor. Feelings he had been sitting on for longer than is probably good for him. And he's finally ready to do something about it. Except, things keep getting in the way. Including, on the very morning he finally decides to act, nearly walking into a scooter and getting pulled back by a stranger who turns out to be his new colleague, Song-yeon. During the fall, Taehoon's watch breaks, and instead of being thankful for saving his life, he just snaps at Song-yeon and walks off. Neither of the two is particularly thrilled about finding out that they now share a workspace. And Song-yeon especially is having a hard time squaring the warm things his new colleagues say about Taehoon with the cold and snappy person he met that morning. And of course, things do not get easier from there. Only a day later, Taehoon suddenly spots Jaemin with his ex Soo-yeon, the fourth and final character to this love square. Soo-yeon had just returned to Korea and Taehoon is visibly afraid of him. And it does not take long to understand why. Soo-yeon has a history of violence that Taehoon witnessed firsthand, and from the moment that man appears on screen, he carries that energy with him. Taehoon's father also resurfaces around the same time, and between the two of them it becomes clear that Taehoon's past had not been kind to him, and that it is not finished with him either. And while Taehoon is slowly beginning to drown in his own life, Song-yeon is always there, shutting down coworker gossip, leaving medicine on his desk, showing up in the small ways that Taehoon is too distracted to notice, but that the audience absolutely does. Meanwhile, Taehoon has worked up the courage to confess to Jaemin, even though the latter had initially lied about his whereabouts in meeting Soo-yeon. But Jaemin shuts him off rather cruelly and tells him that he had crossed the line. Heartbroken, Taehoon leaves, wanders the streets in the rain, and collapses. Straight into Song-yeon's arms. What follows, though, makes one thing very clear very fast. Soo-yeon, who we've only got glimpses of so far, is not here to be reasoned with. He storms into the company building, showing that he holds a high position over Taehoon's workspace as his CEO, and he plans to expand that to his private life as well. He becomes physically aggressive, invades his space, waits hours in front of his apartment for his return, and just when you think Taehoon might get a moment to breathe, Soo-yeon gets added to his work team. And that is actually where we get our first confession. I know, the series is moving crazy fast, but I absolutely loved that it came from none other than Song-yeon. because I fear that man might be the only walking green flag Secret Relationships has to offer. Because the real gut punch of this stretch comes from somewhere else entirely. A secret agreement made 7 years ago between Taemin and Suyeon. Neither would pursue a relationship with Taeun, so they wouldn't have to go through gut-wrenching breakups and could still be in the life of the man they both clearly have feelings for. And then, the show peels back another layer. That violent outbreak of Suyeon's a few years ago, Taemin had actually arranged for Taeun to be photographed in a compromising state while unconscious. Suyeon beat the guy up who took the photos just as Taemin had predicted. The man had been counting on Suyeon losing Taeun's trust over this one, and it worked. The guy I thought was a victim of Suyeon's too, you know, the mild one, not so innocent anymore, I guess. At this point it is clear both Taemin and Suyeon are treating Taeun like something to be managed rather than someone to be loved. And the one who actually loves him, Songyeon, ends up getting protected by Taeun from a fiery round of soju shots with their colleagues and gets drunk for him instead. Cue gut punch number I've lost count. Because Taeun, almost completely wasted, still initiates their first kiss, just to call Songyeon Taemin before passing out. That one hurt. The morning after is awkward in the way only a drunk kiss and a wrong name can make things. Songyeon is cold, Taeun is scrambling, and the two of them have to actually talk it out, which they do. Taeun tells Songyeon that he can stay by his side even though he doesn't have feelings for him. But that doesn't last very long and Taeun suddenly starts pushing away Songyeon because Suyeon now threatens to seriously hurt him. And Taemin? It just gets so much worse. We're not talking about a man anymore who made some questionable decisions out of love. We're talking about someone who has been pulling strings across years, trading information, arranging incidents, and framing all of it as care. But where I absolutely flipped my laptop was when he stabbed his own wrist with a butter knife near the finale. He even blamed Taeun for his own actions. That man is a full-blown psychopath, actually. Suyeon is now also applying pressure from every angle. Forcing lunches, showing up outside Taeun's home and making clear that he has leverage over both Taeun's and Songyeon's jobs. He tells Taeun he came back to Korea for him, not for the company, for him. The more the show reveals, the more you understand how carefully it was all constructed from the start. At some point we learn that Taeun did not have feelings for Jaemin all this time. He had feelings for Suyeon as well, back when all three were at the same college. This drama lets you believe one thing for long enough so that you're convinced you got it all figured out, just to be proven so drastically wrong that you're starting to question everything. The writing knows exactly what it's doing. Taeun, now having seen enough of both Jaemin and Suyeon, finally realizes that maybe he does deserve to be loved, if it comes in its truest form. Someone who won't ask you to change, someone who you can be eye to eye with, and someone who will love you for who you truly are. And as Taeun is finally ready to open his heart to Songyeon, he is being let down due to a cruel misunderstanding. Unsure how to win Songyeon back, Taeun throws himself into work and prepares for an important company presentation. And at the day of the presentation, Suyeon suddenly doesn't show up. But since his presence is vital for the presentation, Taeun and Songyeon both go looking for him. And in the middle of all of it, Taeun suddenly gets a text from Jaemin, asking to meet one final time before leaving the country for a fresh start. And something about that message seems to finally clear something in Taeun, like a door closing on the past. He goes to meet Jaemin at an underground parking lot, but receives a text that he will be a little late. And then, the last thing we see is a dark hand pressing a cloth over Taeun's mouth, dragging him out of the frame. And on that note, I will be pausing the plot summary for just a short while to give you my honest thoughts on the drama itself. If you have the means to watch the finale by yourself, I highly recommend you do that, and then come back to see if you have the same thoughts on it I did. For everyone who is staying, here's my honest review of Secret Relationships. The storyline. This is not a rating I give easily, but Secret Relationships earns it. The storyline is exceptional, complex without ever losing the thread, layered in a way that rewards your attention, and constructed with a precision that becomes clearer the more it reveals. The show plays with half-truths from the very beginning, letting you believe one version of events just long enough for the real one to hit even harder. Every piece of information is placed exactly where it needs to be. Nothing is wasted. And it kept me on the edge of my seat in a way that very few dramas, BL or otherwise, have managed to do. The characters. The characters match the storyline beat for beat. In a drama built around a love square, 4 people, 4 sets of feelings, 4 very different histories, it would have been so easy for someone to tip into too much. For one of them to become a caricature, a placeholder, a device. But none of them do. Every character in this drama has their own struggle, their own logic, their own reason for being exactly where they are in Talon's life. And every single one of them was necessary. Not just for the story to function, but for it to mean something. That is actually rare, and the writing deserves full credit for it. Acting. I genuinely do not know where to start with this one. The entire cast was perfectly placed, each of them bringing something to their character that felt completely their own, completely irreplaceable. The way they each inhabited these people, with all their layers and contradictions, had me questioning whole life choices actually. But the one I keep coming back to is Kim Junseo. He has been fully committed to Alpha Drive 1, which the K-pop world deserves actually. But after seeing what he did with his role, I really hope it is not the last time we see him on screen. I need that man in another lead, ASAP. Cinematography and production. This drama is beautiful to look at. The camera work is K-drama worthy, and then some. Composed, deliberate, and never getting in the way of the story it is trying to tell. If anything, it elevates it. The slow motion is used sparingly and exactly when it needs to be. A gentle reminder that underneath all the psychological tension and plot twists, there is still a love story happening here. And it lands every single time. Styling and design. Every character in this drama was dressed incredibly fitting for their role, and it never once threw off the story, it underlined it. The styling was so deliberate and so well executed that seeing Cha Jung-woo at a fan meeting for the series, bright and bubbly and nothing like Soo-yeon, was genuinely disorientating in the best way. That kind of gap between a person and their character does not happen without intentional, thoughtful costuming. The set design deserves a mention too because it feels lived in, grounded, and exactly right for the world this drama was building. Whoever made these decisions knew exactly what they were doing. Music and composition. The music in this drama is not a weak point, but it's not without its moment of friction either. The lo-fi soundtrack occasionally felt slightly misaligned with what was happening on screen, pulling you out of a scene rather than deeper into it. Not enough to derail anything, but enough to notice. Overall, Secret Relationships is the kind of drama that reminds you why you started watching in the first place. The acting is supreme across the board. The story is so carefully written that even at its most complex, it never loses its thread. Every twist lands, every reveal earns its place, and nothing is there by accident. It had me hooked from the very first scene to the very last frame. Rewatch factor. I will be honest, my first instinct after finishing this drama was to take a moment, process, maybe lie down. The kind of ending that makes you wonder if you are emotionally equipped for a rewatch. And apparently I was. Or I was just insanely stupid. Because I was back at episode 1 within 3 days to show the drama to a friend. And that's my honest take on Secret Relationships. Now, to those of you who went away to watch the ending on your own, welcome back. For everyone who never left, here's how it all ends. Turns out, the one who abducted Dawn was Jaemin actually. He brings him to an abandoned cottage in the woods and tells a tied-up Dawn that today is the day their Christmas wish from 7 years ago will finally come true. A wish Jaemin had made that the 3 of them would always be together, no matter what. And he's very keen on that last part. Meanwhile, Songyeon receives a message that appears to be from Dawn, saying that he had resigned and given up. When he can't reach him on his phone, he immediately goes looking for him, and Sooyeon, for the first time, does the right thing and cooperates, realizing that Dawn's life most definitely is at stake here, and he leads the 2 of them to the cabin in the woods. So here we are at the confrontation the entire drama had been building towards. Jaemin has now become a knife-wielding psychopath for the second time, and Songyeon places himself between Dawn and the blade, getting severely injured. Sooyeon, once so capable of violence, freezes, and only snaps back when Jaemin attempts on Dawn's life for a second time, and finally knocks the guy out. Songyeon is rushed to a hospital and goes into surgery, and on his request, Dawn goes back and finishes the presentation. It is actually also there in that moment that Sooyeon steps back from his pursuit of Dawn entirely. When Songyeon is out of surgery, Dawn is there. And finally, they say out loud what had been true for a long time. They make up in the only way everyone needed. And what follows is the 2 of them simply existing together in the time after. Which, after everything that came before, feels like the most radical thing the show could have given us. Taeon wins an overseas project and is set to leave soon, and Sungyeon is more than willing to wait. But not before he places a ring on Taeon's finger. The last scene brings them back 1 year later to the crosswalk where it all began, where they officially had their first meet cute, the same spot, the same 2 people, just everything is much different now. And then, the show does it one final time. In a post-credits scene, it turned out that crosswalk was not actually the first time they met. A year before Chaemin ever entered the picture, Sungyeon had called an ambulance for a malnourished and passed out Taeon. Chaemin spent the entire drama insisting that he was the one who had known Taeon the longest, but he couldn't have been more wrong. I was played one last time, and I didn't mind at all.